president has promised that the government will settle its arrears due to the National Pension Scheme, SSNIT. The amount represents second-tier pension contributions of workers on government payroll, which should have been paid to the trust to invest. TUC Secretary General Dr. Yao Ba at this year's May Day celebration expressed worry the arrears could jeopardize SSNIT's ability to operate effectively and pay pensioners. Nancy Amafajradosi was at the event. Here's her report.
The failure of government to settle the outstanding contributions was one of the issues raised by the TUC Secretary General.
Government still owes SSNIT and second-tier schemes millions, if not billions, of Ghana cedis. We cannot expect our pension schemes to perform effectively and efficiently if government, which is the single largest employer with over 600,000 workers on its payroll, fails to pay social security contributions. If there is any factor that can lead to the collapse of our pension schemes, it is the persistent non-payment of social security contributions by government.
Dr. Yao Ba also talked about progress made towards enhancing what SSNIT pays pensioners.
Yes, indeed, low level of pay is an important factor. But another important factor which is contributing to low pensions has to do with the way pensions are computed. So in the last 2 years, organized labor has been engaging board and management of SSNIT and MPRA on the computation of social security benefits. Mr. President, I'm very pleased to inform you that we are making very good progress.
President Akufo-Addo noted government is already working on settling the arrears.
I'm informed that the Ministry of Finance has arranged for payment of 200 million cedis and the bond of 700 million cedis towards the retirement of the arrears owed to SSNIT. This will leave arrears of 800 million cedis, which will be included in next year's budget.
He also announced plans were far advanced for the establishment of a pension scheme for the country's cocoa farmers.
Since about 90% of workers operate in the informal sector, we must focus our attention on extending access to that sector in compliance with the National Pension Law. At the moment, government efforts are on course to establish a cocoa farmers pension scheme. This trend will be extended to other worker groups in the informal economy.
The TUC in 2018 had tabled a number of proposals to be considered by government in the 2019 budget to, among others, improve the lot of workers in the informal sector whilst also strictly enforcing the minimum wage.
Right, now let's learn a bit more about this situation and what the TUC is so concerned about. On the line is Mr. Austin Game. He's a labor consultant. Mr. Game, it's very nice to speak to you. Good morning.
Thank you.
All right, now, Mr. Game, 900 million to go in pretty much immediately, and then next year another 800 million. But of course, let's not forget that for many years, about 3 billion was owed to these funds, and it was paid. The 3 billion was paid back in 2017. But the clear and simple situation here is that government does not meet its obligations when it comes to paying up its contribution to SSNIT, which is mandated to then invest that money for the benefit of workers. So in essence, for years, government is cheating workers out of billions of cedis of their pensions. Why are they not being sanctioned for it?
Thank you. I think the issue of pension is squarely on the laps of organized labor themselves. I say so because they are on the board of SSNIT, not just one person or maybe two. They are more. Right. And they are the decision makers. The board is the highest decision maker SSNIT is not a property of government. And he himself said that they are making progress. That's what he said. That's what you played out. So what is the complaint about? If they are making progress, if they are on the board, what is the complaint about?
But
if your boss at your station, after 15 days of the following month, refused to pay your SSNIT deduction, they will pay a penalty of 10%. And even if it's not lucky, they will send him to court. So what is the complaint about? I don't understand it.
So what you're saying is that SSNIT should take government to court?
Say it again.
So what you're saying is that SSNIT should have taken the government to court if it was such a problem for them, right?
If they think so. Because they take individuals, companies to that place. And on top of it, I'm saying that the solution lies in the hands of the TUC themselves. They are on the board of SSNIT. The board makes decisions. What decision have they made? I'm talking about the past, present, future. Whatever it is, they are responsible. So I don't see the complaint.
Right. Now, yesterday I spoke to the Secretary General myself. I asked him to assess SSNIT's performance in managing their money. And he seemed not as concerned as other workers are with the standard of the investment practice of SSNIT. He felt that they were doing well. Perhaps there was some room for improvement. But I want your independent assessment here. A lot is said of whether or not SSNIT is making the right choices with the money that is entrusted to them to invest on behalf of people for their retirement. What is your assessment of how well or otherwise SSNIT is doing in that regard?
Once again, the board of SSNIT, which is like the cover for the fund management of SSNIT, makes the decision. They determine everything. The calculation, everything is determined at the board level. And TUC is fully represented there. They are the highest decision-making system. Government do not come from Castle or Jubilee House or past to force them. If they are forcing them and they accept it, then it means they have accepted it. So everything about SSNIT is squarely in their hands. The workers should ask the leadership. They shouldn't ask government.
Right. Mr. Game, perhaps you didn't hear my question because you haven't answered it. I'm asking for your assessment of SSNIT's handling of pension funds, their investment decisions. How do you independently assess those decisions? Are they doing well or not?
My brother, it's the same thing I've told you, but let me repeat it again. Look, I was on one of the commissioners representing NAT. In writing, we wrote the pension scheme. And SSNIT has a major contribution to make. And SSNIT is not run by people like you and myself. It's run by a board and management, and the management reports to the board, and the board is governed by rules and regulations. And that's why organized labor is fully, not just in part, fully, including people from NAT, including TUC, including mining workers. They are all on the SSNIT board. What decision are they making in the investment? They are the people. You and I only talk about it.
Yes, I'm asking you to talk about it, Mr. Game. I'm asking you to talk about it. We know what SSNIT does. Yeah, are they doing well or not?
I'm telling you that the investment, as we have described variously in the report submitted to government on which the Act 760s have been passed, forming even the MPRA. SSNIT is in the heart of it. They are supposed to make the investment. If I tell you what they are doing is not right, what information do I have? The information we all have is what is in the public domain.
Yes.
I have contributed to SSNIT. My retirement is over, so I'm no longer contributing to SSNIT again because I'm almost 70. So all I want to draw attention to is that the investment as a fund manager by SSNIT is reported to the board on monthly or quarterly basis. And the people who manage this thing are the same workers. So what is the complaint about? I don't see it.
All right. Now, we also have on the phone lines Mr. Hayford Atta-Krufi. He's Chief Executive Officer of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, NPRA. Mr. Atta-Krufi, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Good morning to your listeners.
Right. Now, Mr. Atta-Krufi, if my employer, Multimedia, does not pay my pension contributions, they would have violated the law, and your organization will clamp down on them.
Yeah.
So, for over 6 years, when the government of Ghana failed to pay 3 billion Ghana cedis of pension contributions to SSNIT, for the past few years that they have still owed over 1.7 billion Ghana cedis to SSNIT, are you going to sanction them?
Well, the law says that if an employer refuses to pay pension contribution, there is a surcharge or a penalty of 3% that is imposed on the employer. That is what the law says. Therefore, if there is any arrears or any indebtedness over a period of time that is being paid, the provisions of the law will be applied.
Yes, so have you done that with government?
Well, the indebtedness, as yesterday it came up, you can see that it is a legacy indebtedness over a long period of time. And therefore, when we come to the table to discuss payment terms, then the law says that a 3% surcharge will be applied.
Right. Now, does the law not also provide for what to do if after applying a surcharge, after a period of time, the contribution and the surcharge have not been paid? Do you not take them to court? Would you not take my employer to court, for example, if they fail to pay my contributions for a period of time and then you gave them a surcharge and they didn't pay? Would you not take them to court?
Well, the law mandates SSNIT to undertake criminal proceedings against any employer who refuses to remit the 11%. Just recently, for Tier 2, the MPRA as a regulator has also been given the prosecutorial power to bring any employer who fails to remit the 5% Tier 2 contribution. So that is, there hasn't been any prosecutions yet as far as Tier 2 is concerned, but that is something that is going to happen very, very soon.
Right. Now, Mr. Atta-Krufi, the biggest violator is the government. So now that you have prosecutory powers, if you don't prosecute the government, what moral authority will you have to prosecute anyone else?
Yeah, first of all, when we prosecute, I mean, there are purposes and reasons for prosecution. You prosecute in order to get payments done, okay? In some cases, it says that there can be imprisonment, for example, okay? So all those provisions are there. But the part of the matter is, what do you want to achieve at the end of prosecution? You see, we are talking pensions here. We're talking about payment, okay? We're talking about money that should be paid so that it can be invested. And we don't want to lose the value of money. That is why the law made provision for the 3% surcharge, so that the value can be maintained. because the essence of the prosecution is to ensure that the monies are paid. Now,
is it not to punish those who break the law?
Please, if you have a president who stands on the podium in front of the masses of Ghanaians and instructs that money should be paid, then what? Then you prosecute him? No. So basically, I think we need to have faith in what the president has said, and right on the back of that to ensure that all the legacy indebtedness over the period of time that the law came into force, which is 2010, all the legacy debts, we work towards making sure that they are paid. I think that is the most important aspect.
So, Mr. Atakrufi, what you're saying is that if my employer here at Multimedia fails to pay my contributions and he holds a press conference and announces to the world that he will pay, then he avoids prosecution?
Let me tell you practically what happens. If Multimedia is not paying your pensions contribution, it could be a whistleblower from Multimedia who could let us know, or it will be one of our random compliance visits. Then we come to Multimedia. We look at your documents to show whether you've been paying or indeed if you've been paying and you've stopped at some point. Then we come to payment terms with you. It is the prosecution is not the first instance. We come to payment terms with you. We will set up, if there's a scheme already in place, if you have a corporate trustee, for example, who is managing your scheme, we will then put them on your case to make sure that the payments are collected and the investments are made and the 3% surcharge is put on. That is, prosecution is the very, very last resort. It is not something you jump in at first. That is why I was saying, what is the purpose of prosecution? The purpose of prosecution is to ensure that the monies are paid. So we shouldn't be, so be trigger happy in the sense of going in for prosecution when we know that there are other means that we can use to get the money paid. So at the end of the day, pensions is about the money, and it's about not losing the value of the money. It is not about putting somebody in jail that would get the pensions paid. So yes, the prosecutorial powers are there, but you need to go through the whole process before you get to that point.
So this process that you described for what you would do if my employer were to break the law, have you done the same thing for government? Have you taken them through this whole process?
That is why the matter has come to, yes, it is something that we've been engaging government on. We've had a number of, because some payments have been made. For example, if you listen very well to the president's speech, 3.33 billion of tier 2, which had been owed since 2011, were paid in 2017. So it is a process that we are not relenting on. Because at the end of the day, when somebody comes to your doorstep say that, yes, I'm 60 years and I'm going on retirement, you cannot say that your money is with government or I've lost your money in this investment. You have to pay. So it is an engagement that is ongoing.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you keep saying that the purpose of prosecution is to get the money. Yes. Is prosecution not also meant to punish those who break the law and deter others from doing so?
Yeah.
Right. But the MPRA is not interested in that aspect of prosecution? It's only the money that you want?
The MPRA is interested in every aspect of prosecution. Okay. But the process has to be followed. What I'm saying here, and let me repeat myself here, is saying that the ultimate aim is to ensure that all payments are remitted and the payments do not lose their value. And the framers of the law have put in that necessary provision to ensure that the value of the money is maintained. That is why the 3% surcharge has been put in the law. So in all our dealings and in all our thinking, that is how we ensure that the value of the money is maintained. The prosecution putting somebody in court for them to be jailed or something is the last resort. But even then, it gives an option of either or. So custodial sentence is the last resort.
Right. Okay, now, well, I mean, sentencing is not up to you and I. That's up to the court. So, I'm not even asking about that. I'm just asking about the action, the legal action that the NPRA would take if anybody were to violate the law, and asking whether those same actions are being taken for government. So, I mean, you gave the example of the legacy debt from 2011 till 2017. That's 6 years during which the money was not available to SSNIT for investments. That's 6 years of lost revenue for
let me correct
pensioners.
that. That is not for SSNIT. That was for Tier 2.
Oh, forgive me. Okay, that was tier 2, yeah. But same principle. 6 years of that money not being available for, you know, investment purposes for those who would benefit from it when they retire. So let me ask this. You know, you've talked about that surcharge that applies when it's not paid on time. Tell me the frequency of this surcharge. Is it per annum, per month? How is it applied?
Yeah, it's per month.
Per month. Okay. So for the 6 years, did you make that calculation before the payment was made? Per month, 3%?
Well, again, let me explain a little bit further to you. For the 6 years, it wasn't like the money was sitting there idle. You know, the principal was just sitting there idle. It was in investment at treasury bill rate. It was in investment at treasury bill rate, but there was some indebtedness to, let me say, arrears. And it was those areas that we needed to slap the 3% on. So it wasn't like it wasn't being invested, but it was not transferred to the various schemes as the law said they should.
So who benefited from the investment for the 6 years? It wasn't the schemes, right?
It was a scheme.
It was the schemes.
Yeah, it was a scheme. But of course, it is the barriers minimum, which is the TB rate. The schemes could have invested in other investable, you know, assets.
Yes.
Yes. But of course, government, if your money is with government would invest it in the safest way for you, which would be the treasury bill rate.
So did they pay the 3%? Did government pay the 3%?
Yes, there was negotiation. Sat down with the unions and the schemes to be looked at it, and then we came to an agreement, and then the payments were made. Yes.
Plus 3% per month for 6 years.
Well, for the indebtedness. For the indebtedness.
So the surcharge was not applied to government.
Yeah. Of course, when you sit down to discuss from the government side, they looked at all the pluses and the minuses, and then agreement was reached, and that is where the 3 billion was paid.
Yes. So, but my point is that the way you would treat my employer, you did not treat government the same way. My employer would have had to pay 3% per month.
We treat government the same.
But they
government
didn't
is
pay.
An employer.
But they didn't pay 3% per month. But they did not pay 3% per month for the 6 years.
They pay.
I thought you said they didn't. You said you made some. You came to some agreement with them.
No.
So they paid 3% per month.
The money was invested in TB rate. Yeah, it was invested in TB rate, and any indebtedness or any arrear was surcharged. Yes. So we don't treat government any less than we would treat any other private employer.
I'm sorry, we have very little time, but I really need to get this point clear, Mr. Atakrufi. Forgive me for going over it. I would just like you to clarify this for me. There was a total of 3 billion cedis accrued over 6 years. The law says that you would apply a 3% charge every month.
No, please.
Every month that amount is not paid.
Let me stop you there.
Right.
The total that was paid was the 3 billion.
Right.
Total. So that included the principal and then the interest accrued on the principal by way of investment, and also arrears that the government had, and then the 3% that was
all included. That was all included.
Yes.
Very well. How about this 800 million and then the 900 million coming next year? Are there going to be surcharges on that?
Yes, there will be surcharges on that.
Right. Okay, I want to thank you for your time with us, Mr. Atakrufi. I think we need a longer conversation for more education on the NPRA and its work. But Mr. Game, a quick reaction from you before we go regarding what Mr. Atakrufi has shared. Do you see that the NPRA is doing everything it can in this situation, or is there more they could do?
I think they are doing their best. That's of the recommendations that the Commission, which I was part of, wrote, that as they held the fund, the employers, the Bank of Ghana is supposed to be holding these funds because they are investable funds until the fund managers have been set up. That is even for the second tier, you know, and therefore when they are transferring the money, this negotiation and all that they are doing is in the right direction. It was to be placed not just in a bank, but in TB kind of funds, so that it will yield. That was the purpose why we wrote it specifically like that. And I think that what they've done so far is perfectly in order. That's why I was wondering why the complaint even in the first place, because they're supposed to engage. They're supposed to have this conversation. So something else could have been the time could have been used for, and not necessarily this one, because they serve on all the boards and they make the decision. The investable funds, they know what it's about. The negotiations that are taking place to add 3% surcharge if it's delayed and all those things, they are all good information, and the public should be properly told. I'm glad you said that they need enough time to be able to explain it to the public.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Osengame, and we appreciate you very much. Well, so clearly we need to have a conversation with the NPRA. There's a lot to learn. We'll do that in due course. But let's talk about something else for a moment. For some time now, we've been discussing a lot of lifestyle-induced ailments. And yesterday we had a conversation about stress, right? You remember that? Now, one of the side effects of stress is depression. So why don't we talk about that on the show today? According to the WHO, depression is the most common illness around the world and is the leading cause of disability. Now, they estimate that 350 million people are affected by depression globally. So today our guest is a resident in psychiatry at the Pantang Hospital, Dr. Daniel A.J. We'll be talking to Mama V coming right up, and of course that conversation is not to be missed. Stay with us.